Alright guys, it's Mr. Stark. I'm at Porter and Chester, and I want to go over commercial style air handler units, something that you typically see on top of buildings that are set on curbs. So we are in the HVAC course, and I want to just at least give you a preview of what's on the roof at Porter and Chester. Everything that you're looking at, for the most part, are air handler units that serve different spaces in this plaza at Porter and Chester. So you can kind of see I'm slowly scrolling around. Each one of these is an individual unit. That little silver thing that you see in front, that's an exhaust fan. We usually call them little mushroom heads. If I got time, I'll show you how those things kind of have to get wired. Over here we've got a little mini split system. So downstairs there's a separate little evaporator unit that's inside somewhere. More condensing units. There's a bigger exhaust fan, that big silver dome. More air handler units, another exhaust fan, and I'm just kind of doing a 360 up here so you can kind of see what's going on. So this particular one I'm going to go over because it's right near the hatch. I won't have to walk through the snow. First thing we notice is this is gas fed, so you see a little gas line right there. This whole unit is sitting on a curb. This is a curb. So you notice it's raised off the roof. So when this thing got set, crane had to be up here, and it got dropped down. And you'll notice that there's a disconnect on this unit. And in order to get the feed to the unit, it had to go through the curb. So imagine that this thing's in the air 2 or 3 feet above the curb. There would have had to been a cavity in here where you get your control circuit and your disconnect power feed, 3-phase power feed to this unit. This particular unit also has a service receptacle. So in Article 440, we're actually required to have a service receptacle, and in Article 210 to feed HVAC units on a roof, and they got to be within every 25 feet of every unit. So if this was done to code, I could go to another unit, and if it's not more than 25 feet away, I could use this. If it's more than 25 feet away, there has to be another receptacle on that unit. So, you know, the HVAC contractors can work on this or plug a light into it if they need to, if they're up here at night. If we walk around, you'll notice that this has got a little offset on the back so that you're not mounting the disconnect directly across the condensing coil. Walk a little further around. Some of the videos that you should have seen online already, or discussions, this is the condensing portion of the unit. This is where all the heat transfer takes place, or most of it. And these are little thin tubes, so very similar to the electric heat coils. The surface area is increased greatly for heat transfer just by having all these little fin tubes across the coil. If I'm going to go into the unit now, you're going to see a fan blower, which also helps to dissipate the heat inside that unit. If you can see inside here, I don't know how well this is going to be a visual, but we've got some wiring that's kind of zigzagging around in there, but you can see the compressor at the bottom. And also in there, you can see if there's a pull string that's right next to a piece of Carflex or liquid flexible non-metallic conduit, and you can see all the control wiring that's coming out of there. That goes down above the ceiling, down below the roof in the space where this is fed from. And you can see that little domed area where those seal tights come into. So more often than not, you got to get the control wiring in one of those flexible conduits, and the fan shutdown for the fire alarm duct smokes that might be on the supply and the return down below, which I'll give you a different video on that, and you know, today I'll show you that too. And then you see one of those seal tights, probably can't see it from this visual, snakes in and comes into the unit so we can feed this thing. And then obviously you're able to turn this thing on or off by this. Some of these actually have a factory installed disconnect on them, and maybe I got enough time to show you that. But for now, as a preview, we've got a service receptacle. You've got your service disconnect that turns this off. You've got a label on it telling you what panel it comes out of. Power panel number 1B, circuit 7. Really, this isn't circuit 7, this is 3-phase, so it's likely 7, 9, and 11, or 3, 5, and 7, or something like that. It's a 3-phase unit. So let's go check out another unit that might be a little bit different. We're going to turn around over here and we're going to check out this exhaust fan. These are typically installed where the bathrooms are. This one's obviously running. We take a couple quick looks at this. This is also on a curb. This is sealed so it don't leak, but if you took this cover off and popped it off, you'd see this chase or this ductwork, and that's where your sleeve is actually coming into. If you take this cover off and take these screws off, if I pop this thing off, there's a service switch in here if it's done to code. Excuse me. So when I take that off, I'll likely see a piece of MC cable where it's going to a single pole switch, either 120 or possibly 208, more likely just 120, and that exhaust fan is duct into some sort of bathroom or space that requires that exhaust fan. And these are typically how they look, this being one of the smaller ones. We talked about it in the course that we have to look for nameplates. So this one has a nameplate. It says it's less than 1/4 horsepower, and all of this stuff when we deal with motor calcs are on the nameplate, but it is 115 volt. And what else is on here? It says EF1. So on the blueprint, it probably says where EF1 goes. These are all labeled from the factory. I guarantee if I get to another exhaust fan, it probably says EF2 or 5 or 6, whatever number it is. And here's where we're going to draw all of our stuff off of here for sizing the branch circuit conductors. Pretty cool. I want to get to another unit that has a little bit of a bigger setup, and we're going to have to trudge through the snow to get to this, so we'll do that going this way, so bear with me. This one being a bigger unit, it doesn't have the disconnect on the side. This has a factory supplied disconnect. So by turning this, I could turn this thing on or off. It also has a factory installed receptacle, which we'd have to feed that all through the curb. So a little different style. If I came over to the front of this, I have all my nameplate information. This one's 480 volts. If I took a 5/16 nut driver, I could pop this cover off. When I take this cover off, I'm going to see where my wiring compartment is for my 3-phase 480 and my control voltage and any other things that are needed to tie in for fan shutdown. These two louvers that are over here, excuse me, this is taking in fresh air from the outside, also serves as part of the return. The supply ductwork is underneath. Can't really show you that until we go downstairs. Being a much bigger unit, we've got a much bigger condenser coil on this one, and we've got 2 fans that are helping in the heat removal process. So maybe in another video we can get in here and look at all the coils, but basically this thing, once again, if you could stand back and realize that a crane is picking this thing up, setting it up on this curb that's already waiting for you, and if you're good, you're already waiting with the maybe an electrician down below and another guy up on top feeding your circuit conductors into the unit. So we no longer have to penetrate the roof and take a chance on having that roof leak because we didn't seal the penetration adequately. So hopefully this helps you understand, you know, rooftop units, air handler units. Give you another scan here. There's quite a few of them up here. There's no need to beat this to death. And I'm gonna go downstairs now and show you where the supply and return go through the roof into curb. Show you how the framing is framed out below the unit, so you know where the unit is before the unit even gets set. They frame the ceiling out a little bit differently so you can identify where these units are getting set, so that you can pull your wire prior to not have to actually wait for the unit, because the framing and the steel tells you where the units are going. And then that's about it. So see you at the next video.